Oof, hello everybody. Wow, I look real short here. Let me just fix this. Okay, there we go. How is everybody doing? Some some lively chatter in chat so far. I was getting off to a good start, that's for sure. All right, so doing something a little different this stream, huh? Yeah, so we're playing Diablo IV, and under the sort of frame of looking for Skyrim builds within Diablo IV. We're also going to be doing some pretty hefty Diablo IV stuff as well. So you can buckle in for that if you're interested in that part of it. There's plenty of entertainment to be had if you're a Diablo person, but mostly if you're a Diablo and a Skyrim person like I am. So the format of this one's going to be a little different, a little more structured. What I'm going to be doing with this one is we're going to give each character, I have 4 characters here, each with different classes. We have a rogue, we have a barbarian, a sorcerer, and we have a necromancer. And since we have 4 different characters and a 3-hour time slot, I'm going to give each character 45 minutes. And then we can just go through these guys, maybe do a little, like this is a night, okay, let me back up, here we go, refocus. The rogue is a level 100 character. We're on end game content for this guy, so I might do some nightmare dungeons with him. Everybody else, 59 for the barbarian, 56 for the sorcerer, and 31 for the necromancer. We're kind of still discovering those builds a little bit. The barbarian and the sorcerer are a little more structured than the necromancer is right now, even though I have ideas for them. But anyway, that's what we're going to be doing. So if you're looking for what my sorcerer is doing, then, you know, just hang on for a little bit. We'll go over that. If you're looking for what my necromancer is doing, I'm I'm definitely burying the lead on that one for Magus, so he's going to have to stay around for the whole thing. I'm just going down in order. All right, so let's get the timer started on this guy first. And let's see here. Message we are gonna say. Switch character in. And we're gonna start that timer here at 45 minutes. And that shit is not showing up. Lovely. Okay, give me a second here. All right, well, I'm just gonna do a manual timer. I did all this last night. I set up a timer. There was gonna be a character timer up on top of the, well, yeah, okay. There was going to be a character timer up on top of the screen there. It was all working just fine last night. And now... of course, the timer doesn't want to show. Okay, let me catch up on chat here. And I gotta set a timer for 45 minutes. Boom. All right, catch up on chat. Bone Impaler? Yeah, there you go. That's Magus's necromancer build that he wants. Just Karn and his dong drill weenus. Yes, indeed. It's the only other guy I can count on. Slay King Karn, indeed. This is what happens on Saturday afternoons. Yep. You guys are all in for it now. Thank you, Wind, on the overlay. I think we're all good otherwise. Just try one more time with the damn timer here. Yeah, it's not showing me anything. Damn. Man. Okay. Anyway, that was going to be really cool. Professional streamer over here. All right, so let's start with the rogue here. The rogue looking smexy. He's purple and he's brown because his imbuement that he uses for his rapid fire shards is purple. So I was just kind of trying to match the shadow imbuement color there. Oddly enough, I think that this equipment set looks really close to the Dark Brotherhood replacer with the standard purple cloth that goes with it. And of course, crossbows, dual wielding. We can do all this with all good, all geared up, or whatever new plugin we're using for equipment. So yeah, so far as the look, we can get pretty close, I think. So this is a rapid fire build. Level 100, that's a level cap. So right now I'm not like building this character out anymore. Now I'm in the itemization phase. Just trying to find level or 925 power item power. You can see that right underneath the description where it says the Baraiza Do Kianan repeating ancestral legendary crossbow. And then right underneath that is sort of like the item power for that item. A lot of these are level 900 and above. I'm looking for stuff that's 925, which is the power cap for all these items, and also things that have enchantments like effects on them that directly affect how I play the game. And you'll see that in a second. This is a rapid fire build. This is the first character I've ever made in Diablo. And you'll see what rapid fire looks like in a minute. Basically, he just shoots a barrage, like a barrage of arrows or bolts out of his ranged weapon. It's almost like he's running around with a machine gun in Diablo. And then shadow imbuement, because it makes everything go pop like digital bubble wrap, and you'll see that in a second too. It's very like satisfying. It's like a dopamine hit every time stuff starts blowing up. And then a bunch of like passes and things like that. I'm running Rain of Arrows for my ultimate. It's like a huge volley of arrows that comes like from an army, just waves over the groups of enemies. And I have a unique item called the Word of Akan, which is an amulet that adds elemental imbuement to each one of those waves of arrows. So I get to freeze them, I get to poison them, I get to make them go boom with the shadow imbuement too. Rapid fire shards, indeed. Had rapid fire shards last month. Had to eat some rice. There you go. You get some home remedies there from Magus 80 himself. If you got the rapid fire shards, eat some rice. It's bulking. It'll help solidify whatever's in there. Good idea. I've also heard applesauce. Applesauce mixed with rice will solidify your... Never mind. Okay. So this is endgame content. Once you get to a certain level and you get to World Tier 4, which is called Torment, this is like basically the hardest difficulty that the game is played on. And you unlock those as you level up. Part of the endgame content here is called these Nightmare Dungeons. And you get these Nightmare Sigils from just random loot. You can also craft them if you have the materials for them. And then these have tiers associated with them. Much like the other items have like an item power associated with them, these are tiers. Now, where my itemization is at right now, I'm able to get through tier 63 for the most part without an issue, but I'm still running into, you know, issues here and there with like very specific groups of elite enemies. And we'll, so activating the Nightmare sigil will turn a dungeon in the game into a nightmare dungeon, and that adds like very powerful enemies. It has nightmare affixes to it, so it adds like things to the dungeon that make it more difficult to get through. And I didn't read the description of this before I headed over there, but it also allows you to fast travel right to the dungeon, so you don't have to go through the world in order to do it. So before we get started here, the objective for this Nightmare Dungeon is to slay all enemies in the Labyrinth of Rot. So we're just killing everybody in this level of the dungeon. I just activated my Shadow Imbuement. That adds shadow damage to any weapon that I'm using for 2 attacks. And then also the, I don't remember what these are called. These are Shadow Orbs. it adds some protection, some resistances, both physically and non-physical protection. Let's see if I can find, yeah, this guy right here. Dark Shrouds. That's very important because this is very much a glass cannon. And once we get to the high level enemies in this dungeon, you'll see I'd last about a quarter of a second if I'm taking the wrong kind of damage.
Need more time.
Now this shrine that I just got is called a conduit shrine. It's very powerful. It turns you into a ball of lightning. You just go around shocking everyone. Let me know if the audio is too loud or if it's drowning me out. This game tends to be very explosive, very loud and crunchy. Now, I grew up in the arcades. So this build is very shoot 'em up inspired. So I'm running around shooting machine guns at all these guys, like constantly.
Need more time.
Time for the ultimate. Yeah, buddy. So this was pretty much the only build that I had an idea of what I wanted to do right at the beginning. I wanted something that played like an arcade shoot 'em up. And I think that I have accomplished that. And there are little story beats and stuff that you can get in these dungeons.
The swords that began on the great tree spread to Finalea's hands this
It gives you just a little bit of story for the place that you're in. This isn't really a big roleplay game. It's more about the level grind and creating your subclass and your build in a unique and powerful way. But there is some roleplay to be had here. There is a good amount of story. I found the story to be pretty good, pretty entertaining. It's a little bit short, it's a little bit linear, but it does explore the different entities of hell, and each game and each expansion is kind of centered on another aspect of hell. Like obviously the first one was centered on Diablo. Diablo 3 went through a lot of them. Diablo 4 so far is centered on Lilith, the aspect of hatred. But there's also some Malthael and other entities. Not exactly a lore wonk for this game. It's not why I play it, but there is some story to be had if you're into that. And I would imagine if you set this game to the easiest level and you level up that way, it'll take a little longer, but you can slow down and you could probably do some roleplay. That would be kind of a fun challenge to see somebody do roleplay in this game. By the way, I am dropping a few frames, and I think it's just because I'm trying to play an online game and stream it at the same time. So if you're getting a little bit of buffering or some drops in quality, that's what's going on here. I'm taking up a little bit of my bandwidth with the game itself. We'll just have to play it by ear to see how well that works. But a lot of other people have streamed this game without too much of an issue. Now this one has a little icon. He's got some more health than the other ones do. That is what you call an elite enemy. He's got some special abilities, which you saw the red lightning shooting around there. Those elite enemies, they're tough. They can kill you outright if there's a group of them that catch you off guard or get you cornered. They do a lot of extra damage. They do some elemental damage that you may or may not be prepared for. But they also give you the opportunity for an increased opportunity to get a legendary piece of equipment, a legendary item, either a weapon, piece of armor, or a piece of jewelry. It has what's called a legendary effect on it. And if you're familiar with Skyrim, those legendary effects are like enchantments. You can extract those enchantments and put them on another weapon if it has all like the stats that's good for your build. So we're always looking for legendary weapons. That's a big that's a big part of the itemization in this game, which is a big part of the end game in this game. God, these guys are tough. Oh, that was, yeah. He just ran over me. Killed me in one shot there. Now, these nightmare dungeons, they're really tough, and they also give you a limited amount of lives. So this one gives me 4 revives or 5 lives. And at level, this is a tier 63 dungeon. I've been pretty consistently using all my revives for this. Yeah, just wrecked indeed. Wrecked them, barely even knew them. So cooldowns don't reset or anything, but you do get a full life bar. And you get to refill all of your health and all of your health potions. So I'm thinking about, I can't help but think about Skyrim builds when I'm playing these games, right? And that's because, well, I've been playing Skyrim for, you know, 13 years at this point. Almost 13 years. Okay, this character, this enemy has a heart icon on it, which means it has increased health. They're just, you know, several times more spongy than most others. So mostly I'm using the rapid fire ability here. You also see me using this dash ability. That will take me through enemies, and it also, you know, makes me move pretty fast. And I use that because we are a glass cannon, so my main means of defense, if, you know, the good offense doesn't create the good defense. Okay, I've killed everybody on this level. So it's time to go to the other one. So if the good offense doesn't lead to me having good defense, my next level of defense is movement, mobility. And if that fails, then obviously I have the dark shrouds, the shadow orbs that follow me around. And this game also gives you a dodge, like a little dodge roll. They call it an evade.
To recharge.
And for this class, not all classes are like this, right? Where you have to be so on your toes and so twitchy and have like the reactions of, you know, Billy Mitchell to be able to pull off these nightmare dungeons. This class I crafted, this build I crafted specifically because I wanted that arcade experience where I needed to be quick on my feet and have my reactions on point. Because, you know, sometimes in the mood to just, you know, play something like that. Not all my builds are like this. Many of them are tankier up front, so, you know, you can take more hits than what I'm able to take here. This is just how I designed this build. And as far as I know, people have done rapid fire builds and they posted them on YouTube, but not quite like this. You can see I'm almost exclusively using rapid fire as my means of offense, right? If I'm doing damage, it's from this like machine gun blast from my crossbow. That skill, this rapid fire skill, is not something you always have access to. You see that purple orb in the lower right hand corner? That is the class resource. I think it's called Focus for the rogue. It costs me a certain amount of focus every time I cast this rapid fire ability. And what makes this build kind of unique from the other ones that I've seen is that I don't have a basic ability. I don't have a basic skill. Basic skills don't cost focus. In fact, a lot of basic skills will regenerate focus. Rapid fire is what's called a core skill in this game, which is it's a resource spender, not a resource builder. But I've built this class, this build around being able to constantly regenerate my focus, so that I almost always have rapid fire available.
Need more time.
Sorry, I gotta focus. Most other builds will use a core skill, like something that will build up focus, or they'll use something that will put the vulnerable modifier on the enemies so that they can take more damage from your core skill. So this is something that I'm pretty proud of, and I am going to do a build video for this. Probably not going to do super well on my channel, at least for the regular audience, because regular audience is looking for Skyrim builds, which are still coming. I'm not abandoning Skyrim in any way, shape, or form, really. Just needed a break from it. I've been playing the Steger for a very long time. I needed to do other things while I finish him up. Also, the first Starfield build, the Cyberneticist, that is ready. I'm done with that. It's been edited, it's been uploaded, it's ready to go. I just need to come up with some kind of cool thumbnail that the YouTube algorithm would like. Something to get the clicks, you know? And I'm really proud of it. I think it came together really well. Just excited to see how it does. Starfield's a very polarizing game. I think a nice Ion said it best in his Discord. I don't think it's his official Discord, but it's I don't think he owns it, maybe, but he's in it quite a bit. And somebody asked him if he would still planning on doing mods for Starfield, and he called Starfield a game of all time. Not the best game of all time, not a best game of all time, not a worst game of all time, but a game of all time. And that kind of sums it up pretty well, how the game was accepted, how the game was received, I guess. People either love it or they love to hate on it. So he didn't say whether or not he was going to be doing Starfield mods. I don't know. We'll see. If it has a turnaround, maybe he will. But I'm kind of the opinion that he probably won't. He's just trying to avoid the controversy of the game for now. But yeah, it's either the best game of all time or it's the worst game of all time. At least that's what the common, you know, surface level discourse would have you believe. I'm very positive on the game. I love the game. A lot of people really don't, but I am willing to believe that I would be willing to bet that most people have a moderate view of the game. Just like, yeah, it's not the best thing, it's not the worst thing. Problem with Starfield and the player counts is that there's just so much other great stuff to play that came out last year that a lot of people have,
Need more time.
you know, they put Starfield back on their shelf so they could address their backlog, and that's totally cool. Man, you guys have no idea how hard that was. That was some really slick gameplay there. Just so you guys know, in case you were wondering, those were some tough enemies, and I did some really fancy footwork to get around those guys. All right, woo-hoo. Hands are sweating a little bit on that one. So the goal for endgame content here, Nightmare Dungeons is just one aspect of it. Nightmare Dungeons aren't the one thing that you do once you hit the level cap on this game. There's a lot of other things. There are some uber bosses that you have to kind of grind for materials for. Some of which are in Nightmare Dungeons. Some of them are in things called Hell Tides, which are open world events that have a lot of beefed up enemies just running around in the open world that give you increased experience and also access to these whispering caches, which have a lot of legendary gear in them. Great way to beef up your experience progression if you're trying to get to level 100. But they also do drop materials for summoning uber bosses as well. And there are 3 or 4 different end game activities that you can do once you get a capped out character in this game. It is a live service game. They don't charge a subscription for it. There is a season pass for cosmetics and for some experience boosts that you can pay for on a monthly basis if you want. Some of the cosmetics, if you're paying money for them, they can be very expensive, but that's how they're funding all these seasonal updates and, you know, making sure that the game evolves and there's always stuff to do. You're never getting bored because there's always something new that they're introducing into the game. So far, it has not been pay to win at all, except for some of the experience boosts. I guess you can... It's not competitive. There are no leaderboards or anything yet. So there's literally like nothing that is going to make you better at the game just by buying it. It's all been cosmetics and just experience boosts so you can get through the seasonal content and get those cosmetics, unlock them faster. This character is the one, this is my very first character that I started with when the game launched. And then there's been, we're at the tail end of season 3 now. So there was a season 1 and a season 2 and a season 3. And I've made a character for each one of them. And they add new aspects in each one of these seasons. Just weird little twists to the game. They add a new mechanic or two. They give you a new story to play through in each season completely for free. If you bought the game, you get access to these new seasons. Just the cosmetics that some cosmetics you're going to lose out on, and it's going to take you a little longer to get through the progression of the season to unlock the other free cosmetics that they give you. But you get to play those new stories all for free, so it's yeah, this is one of my favorite releases of last year for sure, and obviously I'm still playing it. I think it came out in June.
I'm not ready.
It had some, it was kind of like Starfield, where it came out to really good reviews. And then as people approached the end game and kind of, you know, experienced everything that the game had to offer, or most of it anyway, there were these power gamers that, you know, can play hundreds of hours of a game in a week and kind of blast through all the content that would take the average person, you know, several weeks to complete. Then the medbirds came out to play, where the same people who were giving the game all of the accolades and everything. This was a great launch, by the way. No live service these days launches in this polished of a state. There were no server issues with this game at all. That was very impressive for me, especially given the state of live service games these days. They always launch with problems, regardless of how good the game is. This one didn't have a single problem. I've never waited in a queue for more than a minute to get into the game. They were ready to go with this thing. But yeah, people have blasted through the content on this game when it released, and then they were like, ah, there's nothing to do in the end game. Well, yeah, that's because you've already played 500 hours, you know, in the first 2 weeks that the game was out, and then that's when the mixed reviews started coming. But they have since added a bunch of stuff. They fleshed out the end game quite a bit. That's something that a live service can do that is harder to do in something like Starfield, which is a single-player experience. But yeah, I really like this game a lot. One of my favorites that came out last year. What am I doing? I'm destroying egg clusters. And if I say so myself, I'm doing quite well on this level. As soon as I say that, I'm going to run into some elite enemies here that are just going to clean my clock immediately. Sorry, I can't. So this is a game, since it's a live service game, I'm technically playing with other people right now in a shared world. I cannot pause this So I'm gonna have to take, you know, the opportunity of loading screens to look over and see the chat. So if I'm not responsive, that's why. I'll look over whenever I can. Do I have the caltrips skill? I do not. I saw something about the caltrips skill. I don't have a whole lot of crowd control. I found that I don't need it. I've designed this build here around mobility and evasion. So I have 4 charges of the evade skill. I can use this little dodge roll here 4 times, and it recovers pretty quickly. I also have this dash ability here, which will take me through enemies. And then I also have the shadow steps skill, which if you see me like disappear and teleport and appear behind someone and backstab them, that does a little bit of crowd control. That will stun one single enemy. But that also has something called unstoppable, which if I get crowd controlled, that shadow step skill will break the crowd control applied to the player character here. Okay, I'm getting cornered here. Okay, got poisoned. That's deadly. Now I do have all my resistances capped out, but obviously, you know, at this level, you're gonna take some punishment. That was the poison attribute. I do have my poison resistance maxed out, but you could see how quickly it was just shredding my life bar there. These glowing orange weapons, these are the legendary weapons I was talking about. They all have, not a unique, but like a powerful enchantment to them. So after attacking the enemies with a basic skill, which I don't have, you get increased damage on your next core skill, which is my rapid fire skill. So if I were using a basic skill, that would be more useful than it is now. So that one I will break down for crafting materials, because legendary weapons that you break down into base components, they give you some very valuable crafting materials that you can use to re-roll your items for better stats, or to apply other legendary effects to those weapons if the stats are good on that. And if I can make it through this nightmare dungeon in time, I can walk you through all that. I just don't want to get this deep into the nightmare dungeon and just not make it through to the other side, you know? Yeah, and you can see why I call this build the digital bubble wrap, because of all the explosions going off. So I do have a legendary aspect on my crossbow right now, that it has a very high chance, a 75% chance every time it hits an enemy to ricochet off to another enemy. And that gives me a little bit of area of effect. So low-level rapid fire builds, this kind of machine gun rapid fire volley that I'm shooting off at people, it has very high single target damage. That's what's kind of praised about that skill. What is the downside of that skill is that it has a very low sort of group damage, very low area of effect. But with that legendary effect, with these arrows and bolts flying off in every direction, and specifically targeting enemies in an area, I can mitigate that weakness a little bit while keeping all the strengths. This build does really well against end-level bosses and areas where I'm gonna use my ultimate on this guy. This Rain of Arrows ultimate does a ton of damage against stationary enemies, as you can just see. That egg sack there lasted in seconds. Oh, these fire orbs are awful. Now you can build your character for like this dash ability. It does damage, right? It does some physical damage, and if you have your shadow imbuement active, you can apply shadow imbuement through multiple enemies, like in the line that you travel through them. I have not spec'd into it very highly, so I'm using it purely as a defensive mobility mechanism. Get out of tough spots and into more advantaged areas with escape routes and things like that, where I can keep kiting enemies back. Focus is the main resource for the rogue builds that enables the core skills and some other skills that you can do. That little purple ball down in the right of my toolbar there. But I also consider space to be my primary resource, right, for this build, because it's the space that it is my primary means of defense. If I'm backed into a corner and I can't retreat, then I'm basically dead.
I need more time.
So that's why my dash skill is so important. So how would we apply this to Skyrim? Well, there is a spell in Arcanum called Spell Shot Repeater, I think. It's an illusion spell. Oh man, that guy was hiding behind a pillar that whole time. I wasted my whole ultimate. That's okay, I got enough cooldown reduction on my gear that I'll get that ultimate back here in another couple seconds. Yeah, it's already back. Great. So skills and abilities, they either use... Ooh, there we go. All right. Now I should be invulnerable in this bubble here. Enemies aren't allowed to be here, and if they are in here, then... Ooh, this guy was going to be tough. And if they are in here, then they can't do anything. That guy got cornered in the bubble.
I'm low on energy.
I'm low on energy. That was the focus. Ran out of, it was the first time in the whole dungeon that we ran out of focus there. Okay, so at the end of this, I'll talk about the Skyrim build here in a second. So at the end of this, we get to upgrade our glyphs, and the glyphs sort of empower your Paragon board, which is what you level up into post level 50. It just makes you stronger. So these are the key glyphs, these three right here that I'm using. One of them, this one pretty much just increases physical damage that we take in a stacking manner. Exploit here, it increases vulnerable damage. Vulnerable is a status effect ailment that you can impose on your enemies. And this class is highly tuned to take advantage of that. So if an enemy is vulnerable, we're doing a ton of damage to them. And we can make them vulnerable simply by kind of just shooting them with this one. And then the ranger here is basically just more damage with your ranged weapons. Now this one, I get a better increased benefit from other magic nodes that are in the radius. So leveling up a glyph will actually increase the radius of that effect in the Paragon board. And this is the Paragon board right here. This is big, nasty, complicated thing. Basically, you get 4 Paragon points every 4 or 5 Paragon points every level, and you use those to increase your stats, basically. And this is kind of like the snake game, where you can only grow your Paragon attributes in a linear fashion. And you kind of like snake your way through these boards. This one is one of the ones that I am leveling up right now. So it gives you an additional bonus on top of everything that it already does. So this grants a 66% bonus to all magic nodes within this red radius here. And the magic nodes are the blue ones here. So everything that I have, plus 83 armor, plus 200 armor with 10 dexterity. This is like a strength enhancer. I get boosted stats from these nodes. And then as I level up this glyph that I just did with that little plinth there that's in the middle of that bubble, it will increase the radius of this, so I get the benefits of like these strength blue nodes here that will increase my damage output. So that's kind of what you're working for in the end game. We are good. All right, let's head back to town where it's safe and I can catch up on chat here. For the rogues, yes, Haster, welcome, by the way. They can also use bows and crossbows and throwing weapons. They have 3 skills trees: physical damage, shadow, and elemental damage. Yeah, the other elementals that the rogue can use are poison and frost. So 3, they got shadow, poison, and frost, and you can imbue your weapons with all of those elements. They also have traps that you can set that will attract enemies, and that's how you get the crowd control out of this class, is through these big traps. I'm using mobility and rapid fire. That's how I've kind of used this, how I built this character up for this class. What do you all think about mini gaming PC? Because I don't want a giant rig. They can be fine if you... So the size of your case is going to be a huge limiting factor these days because GPUs are so huge. They have so much cooling built up around the actual chipset itself that there are some GPUs that you're just not going to be able to put into... Sorry, got some stuff going on here in my OBS that's bothering me. Yeah, so you're going to limit yourself as far as, you know, the size of the power supply you can put in, the beefiness of the GPU. But if you're okay with like mid to low range specs and, you know, playing AAA games on lower settings or playing older games, then mini PC gaming can be fine, and it's great to actually use those on an entertainment center, so you can sit back on your couch with a controller or a wireless keyboard or something and play that way. Not as much room on your shelves under your TV. Your character would be great on a team with someone else distracting them all. Yeah, if I had a tank or somebody else doing crowd control. There are Legion events in this game. There are world bosses that pop up. Like, see up in the left-hand corner, it says Legion, 5 minutes and 50 seconds. It shows up on your map somewhere. Let's see if I can find it. There are a few different places where these Legion events pop up, and it's like a huge concentration of high-level enemies with a lot of elite enemies that will drop a lot of really good gear. And you get a lot of experience for it, too, at the end. And that is open for anybody who wants to just go join that Legion event. Actually, I am not seeing this thing. Oh, yeah, right over here in the dry steppes. And then you just run around with a bunch of other players, and yes, this character does shred in that, because I can just not have to worry about defense and just start shredding things. Why does it have to be offline to pause your screen? It doesn't make sense. You'd think that you'd have figured out by... Well, it's because it's a shared world. What happens to other characters when you pause your game? Do the enemies just stop working for everybody? Pausing your game doesn't... There's no way to really pause it in a shared environment, you know? What some games do is they make you invulnerable if you go AFK. You can, like, set your character as invulnerable to go, you know, take a piss or whatever. You can do that, but I don't think this game offers that. The best you can do is town portal back to a safe place. But then there's like you can go back to where you were too, but there is a spin up on this. So if you're in the middle of a bunch of enemies, you're gonna get hit out of it, and it's gonna be interrupted. So that's the one thing you can do. That's kind of like a pause. Gears Master 3, what's up? Karn, Maldaroth, King, Echo, Haster, what's up, buddy? I don't think I recognize your name. If you're new here, welcome. If not, then sorry I forgot about you. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. Maldaroth is here. Macadamia. Why on earth would you try to stay out of trouble? I agree. Wind, you're so good at causing trouble. I don't know why you'd try to avoid your talents like that. Would be cool if the rogue could use some blood magic. Oh yeah, hemomancy isn't part of his toolset yet. Would be kind of cool. Necromancer has all kinds of blood magic though. That class gets crazy. You just wait for it. Let's see. I think we're getting, yeah, we got about 4 minutes left on this class here. go and do a world event boss? We could, I suppose. You guys want to go see that? We could go do the Legion event, and then it's kind of more of the same, just with more people running around. We'll do this, and then we'll switch to the Barbarian after that. Oh, thanks for the shout out, Haster, to Maldaroth. Maldaroth has a great channel, by the way. I think he's dabbled in some Diablo 4. He's actually streamed it. So if you like what you're seeing here, you might pop back up on his channel. I think mainly he's been working on Skyrim, from what I've seen as Shadow Scale character. Oh wow, okay, the Legion event's already going, it looks like. Alright, a-holes. This should be much easier than the Nightmare Dungeon I just went through. By the way, give it up to your boy Karn here for getting through that, that Nightmare Dungeon with only 1 revive. That's the best I've done in a long time. You guys are distracting me in the best ways. Okay, so the drawback of this is that you actually have to wait for the Legion event to start. It's a shared event for everybody on the server. So let's see, we got a Druid here, level 85. Looks like we got a Sorcerer, level 100. I don't know what that is. That looks like it might be... Is that a Necromancer up there? Might be a Necromancer on the horse. That's definitely a Necromancer right there. Lethal Nightmare, level 90. Now, this is going to get nutty. Okay, we got another rogue over here, too. Legendary Assassin. My dude is Steely Nightmare. For your profile here, you get to pick, like, the title that you want. You unlock title names as you do challenges within the game. And my rogue is the Steely Nightmare. Druid's cool. The only reason I don't have a Druid right now is because I got burnt out on the Druid when I was doing my Druid build guide for Skyrim. And the Druid's actually pretty similar to Barbarian in this game too. I kind of am of the opinion they should have either foregone the Barbarian or the Druid in favor of a Paladin at launch in this game. This game really needs like a full plate armor, like Holy Warrior type. It's kind of a missing thing. Yeah, this is gonna get nuts. It's gonna be really hard to pick out anything that's going on here. That Sorcerer right there has the highly effective ball lightning build going on, where you see all the ball lightning kind of rotating, orbiting around him. Oh, there's 2 of them. Yeah, this Legion event is not going to last long with those guys. So basically, they just wade their way into the thick of things with their ball lightning ability and just shred everything, because it does damage. It does continuous damage as the ball lightnings are on the enemies. So all they have to do is just run around while these persistent lightning balls are just kind of shredding all the enemies in their path. Okay, we got a boss over here. Okay, so he's got these totems tethered to him that we have to destroy before we can actually damage that guy. some more action over here instead of following the group.
I'm not ready yet.
Got a boss enemy up here, up north. Yeah, these things get really chaotic. Yeah, boss is already dead. So, yeah, these Legion events, they're open to everybody on the server. So anybody is free to join as long as they make it here in time. The reward for, you know, stopping what you're doing and making time for something like this is a ton of experience and some really good gear. Obviously, I don't need the experience anymore. I'm capped out. But I am looking for some good high-level gear, so maybe we'll get something at the resplendent chest at the end that we get. Oh, it really clubbed me there. Oh man. They shredded the boss enemy in the wind-up of my ultimate there. The boss was at full health when I hit the button to cast the ultimate, and then immediately the boss was just done. Should have saved it for this. That's okay. It'll be back up here in a few seconds.
Need more time.
Okay, this is the main boss here. This Khazra Abomination. It has a lot of health. Doesn't matter. Got a lot of high-level folks doing this right now. The big orange glowing chest is wow. One sacred crossbow. All right, we have some bows here that might be an upgrade to what we have. So I need to go salvage some of the gear that I have in town, and then I'll come back and get those high-level items that I missed. And then we'll switch to the barbarian. Now, one guy only has 2 balls. Can you can you resummon them? Yeah, that's those the ball lightning. They're very powerful, but they do take up a lot of magicka, and that is the build that I went with my sorcerer. All the gloves, all the necklaces, those are ones that I use uniques for. But they do cost a lot of magicka to summon, right? Leave behind a cluster. I want to keep that. So you're limited to how many of those that you can have orbiting around you by how much magicka you have. And once you run out, then you kind of just got to deal with what you have until you can regenerate. The people who have structured their build completely around that, they have a ton of magicka, so they can just keep recasting them. And the most powerful ones will obviously have more balls. Having more balls is better if you're a sorcerer. You would think that would be more of a barbarian trait, but no, the sorcerer has the most balls in this game. Okay. I marked all those for salvage, and then I junked them all. What that does is it gives you crafting materials to upgrade other weapons, and to reapply enchantments and to reroll stats and things like that on different items. Crafting materials in this game is very important for the end game. Trying a somewhat pure orc crusader, leveling restoration rather than one-handed. Interesting. Okay, then I got some inventory management to do off stream here, but I think this is a good place to leave our rogue. Oh, I was going to talk about the Skyrim build for this too. I don't have anything in the works just yet. I got a lot of builds in the pipeline for my ideas here, but for this guy, let's zoom in on him a little bit here. Yeah, I was talking about the Arcanum spell shot repeater. And that's an illusion spell that I could hook up to Okado's Recital. And every time you shoot a fully drawn bow, it shoots out, you know, a barrage of multiple arrows. So that would kind of take care of the rapid fire aspect, that kind of machine gun shot that I was using before. And then I was thinking that to Lion's Arrow, I could hook up the Triumvirate Shadow Mage spell. The novice level one that does damage over time. It does have the purple effect to it, but it also has a absorb health and absorb magicka effect to it. And then also the Shadow Mage spell, Azra's Wrath, I believe, where it causes an explosion around you. It is also like a purple shadow explosion that it multiplies. It eats half of your magicka and multiplies that amount by a certain amount, and that's the amount of damage that it does in an area around you. So that would kind of take care of the explosive effect of that. And then the Shadow Mage Shadow Dance spell I could also hook up to Okado's Recital. And every time you jump, it will kind of dash, so that the dash functionality that I have in this could be taken care of by that. And then it would be kind of like a combat arcane archer without minions this time. The Nemesis arcane archer had minions, and it kind of worked off of Warlock synergy from Triumvirate. But this would be like a Shadow Mage combat archer, which I think would be super fun to play. And of course, you would need things like slow time and everything to kind of convey that feeling of speed, I think. But yeah, very cool character. Oops, did not want to do that. I wanted to zoom out. And then, yeah, we could use the Dark Brotherhood Replacer set with the default purple cloth on that, and it looks very close to what I got going on here, too. Oh, and in this game, there's lots of customization. You have a wardrobe here. You can change the look of every single piece and save those into equipment slots. So this is the one that I've been using. I just think it looks coolest. I like the leather pauldrons and the hood and the cloth. I don't know why I have those both set as two. But anyway, this one looks cool too. This kind of has a scarecrow from the DC universe. It looks pretty cool, huh? It has the glowing eyes and mouth and everything. I use this one a lot as well. I like the glowing runes on the armor pieces. Very cool looking. Got some other cool looking stuff here. Yeah, and then you can mix and match each piece individually. Make your own equipment sensitive. It's kind of like Cyberpunk 2077 in that regard. You go to your wardrobe and pick how you want each piece of your itemization to look. Played a paladin build in Skyrim, like a vagabondish paladin. It was one of the most fun builds I ever came up with. High as fuck. Okay, cool, man. Whatever it takes to get the creativity flowing, you know. Yeah, just health bars melting in that Legion event. Yeah, so looks cool as fuck. Good tasting at that. Yeah, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Very cool. Yeah, I believe it is very cool. I like this game a lot. It's very live servicey with the season pass and the sort of the mid-seasonal events and things like that, but there's always something new to try. All right, I'm resetting the timer. 45 minutes for the Barbarian. Let's do it. This was my season 1 character. The Barbarian is different. He's more of a melee build. There are actually melee builds that you can do for the rogue as well, but it's always more dexterity crit proccing sort of builds than it is for the Barbarian. The Barbarian's much more tanky. He's meant to be front lines. There are some ranged builds you can do for him. They're not as effective as what you were seeing with the Rogue there, of course. Wouldn't want it to be. But this guy looks cool as hell too, I think. This guy looks badass. So Barbarians in the Elder Scrolls lore are light armor, kind of nimble, more than they are just like heavy armor tanky. In Diablo, they tend to be a little more tanky. There is some nimbleness to them, but yeah, for the most part, they just get up in your face and wail on you. Now, this is a level 59 build. I'm able to take on World Tier 3, which is the second to highest difficulty level so far. I haven't done the Capstone Dungeon, is what they call it. That's when you unlock the next difficulty or the next world tier. I haven't done the World Tier 4 Capstone Dungeon yet. I think that unlocks around level 75, and, you know, depending on how efficient your build is at that point, it might take you up to level 80 before you're able to comfortably get through it. Or even are able to comfortably deal with enemies at World Tier 4. This dog is really following me around, sniffing my crotch, getting right up underneath that kilt there, those tassets. Okay. So this is where this character is at, is more indicative of kind of what you're going to do for the first, you know, 7,500 levels, and that's, you know, questing. There are a bunch of quests in this game, so it's not just, you know, grinding tons of enemies for loot. That's what the end game is. Up until that point, you're playing this like an RPG. So people who are more fans of the Elder Scrolls, kind of slower paced a little bit, maybe you just want to hang out and do some quests, get some story. You can do that in this game. There is a good main storyline in it that is very focused on kind of the relationship between heaven and hell and demons and angels, and there's a little bit of a love story, a forbidden love story there. But it also explores these different aspects of hell, like Diablo himself, Lilith, and a bunch of different characters like Astaroth and stuff you get to fight, which was a really cool boss fight in the main storyline. Yeah, so there, I wouldn't say that this game is particularly suited for roleplay, like a slower paced roleplay style, but there is some roleplay to be had. I would be interested to see how somebody implements. Ooh, that's a treasure goblin. Okay. Where is that treasure goblin? There he is.
I'm low on fuel.
So, the type of build that I went for with the Barbarian, this is a bleed Barbarian. I'm not sure that this guy was ever the most effective build, but when I didn't have a direction like I did for the Rogue, when I knew after I saw the rapid fire effect that I wanted to build my entire build around that skill, I'll let the legendaries, the legendary items that I get, kind of guide me on my build when I'm unfamiliar with the class. And very early on, I got this unique two-handed sword. And I don't remember exactly what it's called. But when you stab them with this skill, it creates a pool of blood under them. And that multiplies the effectiveness of all your abilities that causes a bleed effect. So this is a damage over time build, but it does so much damage over time that it almost doesn't feel like a damage over time build. It really doesn't. It's good fun. This one came together really well. The Bleed Barbarian is less of a well-kept secret than the no basic skill rapid fire build that I had going for my Rogue. So not as niche, not as nuanced, not as unique. You will see Bleed Barbarians. out in the wild. But they're still not as ubiquitous as like the ball lightning classes for the sorcerer, or the twisting blade classes for, or twisting blade builds for the rogue. So I'm trying to keep these guys from being absorbed by this demon here.
Don't have enough fury. I must work.
I'll go over what makes this build tick here a little more once we get through this event and are a little more safe. Will she? Get some murmuring obols on this one. Get some legendary pants. That won't make Magus very happy. In Magus's mind, there isn't a pair of pants that is legendary. All his characters would be going sans pants. Hey, there's James Ansel. Yeah, sorry again if I'm not able to pay as close attention to chat. I kind of got to pick my places to look at the chat here. Live service game, always going. Channeling shrines, these are cool. These reduce cooldown on all of your skills, ultimates, all that good stuff. Yeah, a whole lot of swing, swing, swing. The bleed, the abilities that cause the bleed effect, they have like this super sharpened blade cutting through the air sound, that kind of whiny sound that I think is like just super cool. Every class has a special dismount ability too that you can use to attack on your way off of your horse.
I'm out of fury.
For the rogue, he will jump off his horse way up into the air and shoot down a rain of arrows in the target area in front of him. Ah, you bastards. So yeah, this build is also very strong at this level. I'm interested to see how well it holds up in World Tier 4 at higher levels, but I think that it will be fine. I think it has all the building blocks of a really good build. The Rogue, which was more of a targeted build, where I was doing things inefficiently at the beginning in order to enable a cooler build later on. The Rogue had a much harder time with lower level content. I think that the Barbarian, kind of focusing on a strong build up front instead of getting there later, I think he's going to have an easier time all the way through the game because of it. Oh, I found myself in the midst of another event here.
What is this?
Don't just stand there. Help me.
I'm working on it, lady. Hold your horses.
Wouldn't have made it without you.
Yeah, see? Now he's being a little more appreciative to the hero that just saved your ass.
Bless you.
Some of the dialogue in this game is pretty cool too. It's not what people kind of think of when they're thinking of Diablo. They think of the level grind and the item grind and everything. But some of the dialogue is pretty fun. If you take the time to talk to people, you'll get some more insight into the world and what they think of your character. Your character is like a demigod for all intents and purposes, right? They get so strong that they become a monster in their own right. And people realize that about you. And you can start hearing them like whispering things about you, and some of them will straight up just tell you, like, they'll say things like, you realize how terrifying you are, right? Do you realize like the hush that comes over the crowd whenever you go into a city and things like that? And so it's kind of cool just to think that, you know, all the NPCs are completely terrified of how powerful you become. You've just destroyed all the most evil, most powerful demons they've ever encountered, basically single-handedly, and you could have your way with anything in this world, and at any point you can decide that you want to use that power for evil.
I might ask you the same.
And they're all
This is
fucked.
no place for sightseeing. I was helping these people escape Chaldeum when we were attacked by monsters.
Is
Now
this a
we're
new
split up
rarity,
and the damn
cyan?
things just keep coming.
No, the cyan that you're probably, that might have been a nightmare dungeon, a nightmare sigil.
Could certainly use an extra sword. Just
See if I picked one of those up. Those nightmare sigils, what they do is they power up a regular dungeon in the game with souped up enemies,
Stay close, you two.
but more experience, better chances at legendary items and things like that. Oh god, these guys are just shredding my health pools. Look at this.
Are you hurt?
I was stunned, but
Left-handed Jedi. Did I play through the vampire season? I played through the story part of it. I didn't
I'm a
do.
man of my word.
I missed some gold. Yeah.
You die
So in this
fast.
game, there's a lot of items, a lot of loot that you just leave behind because it's not worth actually turning around and taking 2 steps to your left to pick it up. Oops. Oh my god. I thought this barbarian was really strong. Yeah, they just shredded me. So a big part of the defense of the way I have this barbarian running right now is that as he's hacking away at enemies, he builds up this barrier.
Don't have enough fury yet.
So the barbarians, let me focus on this real quick here. The barbarian's primary resource is is fury, and he gets fury by doing basic skills and things like that. And the fury goes away when he attacks, when he doesn't attack. It's kind of the opposite of the rogue, where he's got this resource called focus, and the more as he uses it, he kind of spends it, right? And then it kind of regenerates on its own as you go. The barbarian is the opposite. The resource gets built up by attacking enemies, and then he can spend it on other abilities.
For your help.
And that's called fury. He needs to build up his fury. So as the fury gets built up, so does my defense. So if I enter into a situation with low fury and I don't have this barrier built up as part of it, then I'm gonna be a little squishy.
I must get these people to shelter.
But he does have some crowd control techniques. He's got a stomp that I use that stuns everybody in a limited radius around him. So I can do that, and that also synergizes well with the big blood pool that I'm creating when I stab them with my big two-handed sword. Yeah, I can just skip all these enemies, and I will. I gotta go find Edgar in this blue area over here. Now, on the way, you can, like, stop and fight all these things. They give you this mount, this horse, to bypass all that if you're just trying to get to your next waypoint. You want to kind of skip over this open world stuff. There's also, you know, hefty amounts of fast travel through the waypoint system. Not quite as accessible as like Skyrim's fast travel. You have to go to very specific waypoints, and not every place has a waypoint. God, I hate those exploding orbs. But I'm not doing that now because I just kind of want you to see the world design and the level design. I think the art team did a great job making these different areas seem cool and unique in their own ways, right? So we got the desert landscape here, which is usually my least favorite in a video game. Although any video games that has multiple biomes, they always have to have like a desert biome, and those I spent my entire life in the desert. There is definitely some stunning beauty to be had, but for the most part it's just brown and dry and dusty, and kind of sick of it. I've been experiencing it my whole life. So I tend to prefer like foresty areas in video games, which is probably why I'm so drawn to Skyrim for so long. There is no desert in Skyrim, I just realized. That's awesome. A tundra is kind of like a desert though, right? It's just a lot colder. Still has all the same lack of foliage and precipitation for the most part. God, those wasp enemies just were, for whatever reason, they were just shredding me. Like, these guys can barely hurt me. Oh no, I'm not supposed to speak with Edgar. I'm supposed to be on the hunt. We're searching for Dawood. Dawood? Dawood. Water-stained letter. So this gives you a new quest. So yeah, you'll find these quest triggers all over the place in the open world. The rogue that I just played has pretty much already done all of the quests in the world. Played this game for a lot of hours in the, you know, coming up on a year since it's been out. Why am I not finding what I need to find here? What's your poison resistance? That's a good question there. So I do not have my poison. Yep, that's the problem right there. This is not anywhere close to an endgame build yet, so I haven't been focusing on endgame itemization. Resistances included in that. So yeah, good call on that, left-handed Jedi. That is exactly what's missing there is my poison resistance. I got plenty of physical resistance. Poison resistance is definitely lacking. Good call. Now I know. I don't know if I'm in a position yet. Oh, there he is. Dawood, the Iron Wolf. Dawood, I take it. Your captain is looking for you.
He hired an outsider to find me.
He must be
He
angry.
must be angry. But I won't just stand
These
in
games
my
are
house
addicting.
waiting for the next ambush to kill
There's
my
always a
friends.
carrot being held out in front
I'll
of you.
track the killers to the
They
beach.
are
Since you're
very
here,
good
you can help
at
me
giving you
teach
a
them
target,
lesson.
something to strive for at all times, and they give you just enough progression. In these games, the progression happens much quicker. Yeah, stay out of that poison pool. They give you just enough of progression. In these live service games like Diablo, the progression happens really quickly. So you sit down like, okay, I have 30 minutes before I have to go to bed. I'm gonna see if I can grind a couple levels of Diablo. And then before you know it, you're 8 levels progressed, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning. And you're like, well, there goes my day.
Feed the crows, you bastards.
Ooh, that's a glyph. Okay, I can use that on my Paragon board.
It's time they feared the Iron Wolves again.
That might be what James saw
We
earlier.
should report our victory to the captain. So
Definitely
back in
melted.
camp, eh?
3 hours later, yeah.
I need more fury.
Definitely need more fury. Just gotta run around whacking people now. Yeah, the Barbarian is usually a very momentum-focused build. It takes them a little while to warm up with the fury gauge and things like that, but the way I have them set up, the higher the fury, the better the defense, and the better the offense. You get more damage based on how much fury you have in the pool as well. So I'm trying to keep that as high as possible. But yeah, obviously that takes
He did.
some hacking and slashing to get that fury
double
gauge up.
shifts until his excuse for a beard turns gray. Damned idiot
Hey,
smiled
what's
when
wrong
I
with a
gave the
gray
order.
beard?
Said
Nothing wrong
his
with a
post
gray
should be
beard.
much quieter now after your victory over the bandits. It will be the opposite.
So
I
how
assure
would we
you.
implement this in Skyrim? So this would be more of a heavy armored build, right? We would call it a barbarian, but really it would be more of a warrior, right? So what makes the barbarian unique in this game is its arsenal. So for the rogue, we had a weapon slot for range, and we had a weapon slot for 2 like dual wielded weapons, right? The barbarian gets a weapon slot for his warhammer, 2 one-handed weapon slots, so he does get to dual wield the one-handed weapons, and then he also gets a 2-handed slashing sword to go along with it. And you get all of the buffs, all of the stats, like the 39% critical strike damage and stuff that we get from this guy. You get that all the time. That's always active. That's not only active when you have the thing like equipped. If it's in the sheath, then you get the benefit from it. So depending on your items and what the stats are on the items, you could end up having more, better passive skills, better passive buffs with the barbarian, because he has that extra slot that he can put equipment into. The barbarian is the build that has the most item slots in the game. Everybody else, so the sorcerer and the necromancer both only have 2 weapon slots. They have a slot for the weapon, and in the mage's case, like some kind of a conduit, like it could be like a book or some kind of like trinket. And for the necromancer, they are also able to hold a shield, and either one of them can also dual wield a weapon, either a wand or a staff, or like a scythe or scythe in the case of the necromancer. But yeah, this is a huge boon for a barbarian class. They get all these items. They also have different skills that they can use for each one of these items. So I have this one on this big stab skill that I use that creates the big blood puddle that multiplies my bleeding damage for anybody who's in it. And I got this one fairly early on. You can see that this is only 634 item power compared to the 900 and above item power that I had on my endgame rogue. So this is a pretty low level weapon. It's not doing a whole lot of DPS right up front, but this is what's called a unique, by the way. This is officially, technically above a legendary, you cannot re-enchant or like reapply legendary effects to a unique weapon. You're locked in with the effects that it gives you and the stats and everything. You can't upgrade it, but you can't change the effects on it. What you get in return for that is a very powerful effect. And in this case, the effect is so powerful that I'm probably going to be using this unique for a very long time because drop rates on this guy are very minuscule. I likely won't see another one for another, few dozen hours at the least. So I'm going to be running with a low-level sword because it enables the bleed build so well. So as far as the Skyrim build on this one, there is bleed damage in Ordinator. You get bleed damage from daggers and I think axes, maybe? I know you get bleed damage from axes in the vanilla game, but it's really minuscule. It's very small. Oh yeah, vampires do bleed damage too, so we could have a vampire barbarian here and turn him into like a hemomancer barbarian. But yeah, daggers are interesting, especially a dagger in the offhand will really enable exactly like a Daedric relic. So Daedric relics, you can't re-enchant them, you can't disenchant them, you can't do anything with them. You can improve them in most cases if you have the arcane blacksmith skill, but in exchange, you typically would like to get like a super powerful enchantment on those Daedric artifacts that you're in return for not being able to enchant it yourself, right? Or take the enchantment off and put it on something else. And vanilla game was kind of hit or miss. Things like Zims and Reliquaries of Myth, they do a much better job at that, of making those Daedric items more well worth it. Yeah, I think there are some spells in Apocalypse. I haven't hit the hemomancy stuff too hard. I do have some experience with it in Sacrosanct, which has some really good blood magic, some hemomancy stuff in that spell package. If you're a vampire, that I could look into. That's nothing with a blood pool though. But we would also obviously be spending a lot of perk points in a wide spread in our weapon skills, leaning into dual wielding for the one-handed stuff, daggers and axes for bleed damage, and then we would have two-handed weapons like warhammers and two-handed swords. And then we'd have to put stuff into heavy armor, of course, because without any kind of, I guess we could block with a two-handed weapon, right? It would be pretty important for defense, I think. There's a mod that changes the ebony blade into a dagger. Interesting. But the blood pool and stuff. I suppose for like the barrier on this too, I could put like absorb life enchantments, absorb stamina enchantments for like building up fury on these weapons. And there is damage over time stuff in Summer Mist that Anaya has put into enchantments. You can, but there's less damage mitigation compared to blocking with a shield. Yeah, but it gives you something, right? And I think dodge rolling would become even more necessary with TK dodge in that case. But yeah, we wouldn't have a shield, but we would have the benefit of heavy armor, and we would have our dodge rolls, which would help. But we would also get the benefit of the block bash, which is the fastest attack in Skyrim is that block bash, and it causes a stagger. So just having access to a block and a block bash is super important, even if we're not getting the full effect from a shield. To serve again, so bring the Iron Wolf armor to Barez. Let's do that. So yeah, until you get to the sort of like level caps, level 100, and you start like chasing around legendary gear and things like that, you're pretty much just questing. There are also a bunch of dungeons. Like these dungeons with the yellow dot on them are dungeons that I haven't cleared yet with this character. And each dungeon has a little story to it. You can get like a little map or a little journal entry or something that kind of tells you the little story about the place as you're cutting your way through it. And also there's a legendary aspect that you can add to your coda. So when you do these dungeons for the first time, you get to put a legendary aspect in your codex of power. So this enables you to not have to disenchant a legendary item to get that effect. You always have this effect kind of, you know it intrinsically, but it's always the lowest amplitude, the lowest strength effect for that effect that's possible if you're going to do it this way. So it's much better to get that legendary aspect off of a legendary item. Like for this one, there's a range that you... Oh, that's actually a crappy roll. That's also a crappy roll. Okay, but you see where it says when there are at least 5 close enemies, stun them for 2 to 4 seconds. And it's actually 2 seconds for this one. So this is the crappiest roll we could have gotten for this legendary aspect. But that could have been a 3-second or a 4-second stun. If it's a 4-second stun, that's very much worth extracting that aspect from this item, which destroys the item, but then you have this aspect in your inventory that you can apply to another item. In the codex, when you complete a dungeon, you get this effect that you can put on any item you want, but it's always going to be the lowest of the range there. So it's always going to be the 2 seconds instead of a 4 seconds. Which can be a huge difference in this game. 2 seconds is more than enough time to kill an elite if you are spec'd correctly with your build, or to die 7 times if you're facing the wrong enemy. Hemomancy Blood Magic pack mod you can use as non-vampire as well, Karn. Thank you, Poemer. Welcome and hello, by the way. I don't think I saw you slip in. Good to have you. Let's see. I suppose you could put Wind Shear into the build. That does staggers as well, right? That is defense through offense. Okay, here's another dungeon. This one has like a weird like icon around it. That is part of the Tree of Whispers quest. So the Tree of Whispers is a mechanic in this game. So this is kind of cool, actually. Let's go see the Tree of Whispers. Once you get to a certain level, you unlock the Tree of Whispers. And this is a tree that has a bunch of heads, severed heads hanging from it, because, you know, this is Diablo. And Diablo's badass. Yeah, it has a bunch of these severed heads hanging from it. These heads, like, talk to you. And they give you these sort of bounty missions to do. And that's what these special icons are. So creating or completing this dungeon will give you 5 grim favors, which are kind of like bounty rewards for the Tree of Whispers. This one will only give you 1. This one will give you 3. And it just gives you some certain tasks to do, like harvest this many souls from this area, or kill this many of this type of enemy in this area, or complete this dungeon in the next hour or so. And then once you get filled up on grim favors, you come back to the Tree of Whispers and turn them in, and then they'll give you this legendary cache of really high level gear and a nice big chunk of experience. So if you're leveling up, this Tree of Whispers is a great way to do it, to get that sweet XP. Okay, so is there anything more about this? How much more time do I have left? I got 10 minutes left. I ate 5 or 10 minutes in the last build. I don't know how much more to go on with this one. Yeah. Let's make up for lost time. We'll skip to the sorcerer early now. Make up that 10 minutes that we lost with the rogue. These lower level builds don't have as much going on to them, so I can kind of explain them a little better. Okay, so this was my season 2 character, the sorcerer. Technically, this is a sorceress. This is a female character. So these, you can choose which like gender, which sex you want for each one of these characters, but they all have the same animation set, which it was kind of cool actually. The rogue is a little more androgynous. It's the animation set for the rogue works equally well for males and females, I think. The barbarian is very masculine, but it still kind of looks badass on a female character, I think. The sorcerer is actually a sorceress, so very feminine animations and stuff with that. And the necromancer is just kind of creepy, a little more androgynous, like the rogue is. So it kind of looks more natural on both genders. But yeah, if you see my male sorcerer making some effeminate movements, that's why. I think it also just adds some character to the character as well, a little bit of unique flair. The character creator in this game is pretty good too. Like this character is dark skinned, right? It's like a black character, but it also has a little bit of vitiligo to it. So there's some white splotches across the skin on these guys. So representation. Let's see, can I equip? So representation for like a lot of people is pretty good in this game. If you want to, if you have the vitiligo condition. By the way, people call this like a condition and they get treatment for it and everything, but I've seen some very attractive people with that same kind of skin condition there. I don't know. I just think it adds some uniqueness to it. But if it's like you're trying to represent yourself in the game, there's probably an option for it. The necro definitely roars at your girl. Yeah, for sure. Prefer the witch doctor over the necromancer. Someday, this is a live service game. They have some very long-term roadmaps for it. You might get your witch doctor. The witch doctor was a really cool class in Diablo 3. I thought it was going to be my least favorite, but it ended up being one of my favorites. Because I use it for my werewolf that has an uncontrollable hunger for blood, so he controls it with blood magic. Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. I'll have to look into it. I don't know if I want to add more. I got a huge amount of magic in my game, in my Skyrim game as it is. But I'll look into it. It might be worth adding just to enable stuff. I don't like adding disparate packs. Like Sacrosanct has a very fully, pardon the pun, fleshed out hemomancy system to it. And I think Apocalypse adds some blood magic here and there too. So I don't want to further complicate things by adding another sort of separate blood magic pack to it, but this one might be worth it. If it fits in, I might be tempted to put it in. Hemomancy blood magic. I will look into it. Thank you for the recommendation on that. I do appreciate it. Demon Hunter was my go-to in D3. D3 had some really good classes, man. Wait, the Witch Doctor was D2, wasn't it? I don't think the Witch Doctor was in D3. Am I getting that mixed up? I played a lot of both. None nearly as much as what I've played in Diablo 4 so far, though. Witch Doctor might have been a Diablo 2 one. But yeah, Demon Hunter was really cool. I don't know if we need a Demon Hunter in this game. The Rogue pretty much... In my opinion, I like the Rogue better than the Demon Hunter, personally. See, my Sorcerer has 3 balls. Yeah, Storm Sorcerer. Yeah, it just can completely shred these guys. It's not nearly as powerful as what you were seeing the level 100 and level 90 guys tearing through that Legion event with on the Rogue. This is a lower level character, but also they nerfed the Ball Lightning build after Season 2. So I'm just going around this area that's highlighted in blue right now, and I am collecting charger tusks for them, for the quest giver. So this build started out as a chain lightning build. There is a chain lightning spell in this game that's awesome, as there is in Skyrim, and chain lightning builds in that game are also awesome. Yeah, sure, I'll help you out here, buddy. And we got a Paragon point. It's a barbarian over here, huh?
I'm out of mana.
So this build is actually, funnily enough, a less of a glass cannon than the Rogue build, because he needs to kind of get in there and be in the thick of things in order for this orbiting ball of lightning to do its thing. You got to be close. So we need a little bit more protection, and there is, of course, a lot of defense via offense here, if we can shred the enemy fast enough with our electric balls. And we don't need as much defense. Trying to find charger tusks here. The chargers are these big boar hogs that charge you. And for this quest, there's only a chance that it will spawn. Oh, I left one behind over here. There's only a chance that that enemy will drop the resource that you're trying to gather here. So a lot of these quests are like this. It's kind of a go here, do this thing with a very thin amount of story to it. But there is some dialogue to it. You can role play your way around it. Like I said, this isn't super suited to role play, but I would be interested to see somebody try. It would either be terrible or it would be really awesome. I think it's doable. It's just not really well suited for it. The game doesn't give you a whole lot of built-in tools for roleplay. How many more charger tusks do we need? 3 more. So this is the sorcerer class. I have chosen storm magic. You can do storm magic. You can do, you have all the elements, right? You have storm. Ooh, I thought that was a bad guy. No friendly fire in this game. There are PvP arenas that you can opt into if you want to fight other people. It's not my experience that they get a lot of play. Most people are just in here for the level grind and fleshing out their builds. But there is PvP in this game. But yeah, you can have a fire mage, you can have an archmage, and some of the elements actually synergize together quite well too. Before Season 1 hit and before that first balance patch, sorcerers were really, really strong. Because of the vulnerability debuff that you could put on enemies. You could make enemies vulnerable through certain ice spells that you could cast, And then you could clean them up with, like shock magic or fire magic or whatever else you wanted to do. I think it was like an ice shards build where you could, you make all your enemies vulnerable through like this machine gun fire, like ice shards that you would throw. And then you could clean them up with like chain lightning or something like that afterwards. The fledgling merchant. I gathered these for you. No need for a cut of the profits.
Oh, wow. These
Get
are
this
nice
poor
big
kid back
ones.
up on his feet.
Not cracked or nothing. Thanks, Wanderer.
There we go. We got a nice little chunk of experience and then another cache with some items in it. Diablo 3 was my sorcerer version, more of a conjurer, but his spell attack was always lightning anyway. Yeah. Diablo 3, that was the witch doctor. Here's a link to the mod card, hopefully. Oh yeah, no, unless you're a mod, you can't post links in the chat. Sorry about that. It's just for fighting bots. Can't open it up to everybody because then we just get spammed constantly. Strudel, welcome, welcome. Current sorceress uses all 3 elements. Yeah, and you're just kind of... You're probably leveraging things like vulnerability and synergies for like legendary. Oh yeah, that's fine. I'm kind of coming at this game, Strudel, from a Skyrim player's perspective anyway. There's a lot going on and I'm not going to hit all of it, but hopefully you can get something from it if you know about Skyrim. Thanks, Pomer. Let's see. Yeah, so you can use different elements to enable different damage types and things like that. I think using a sorceress with all 3 elements would be good. Yeah, so for this build, mostly lightning. So how would we implement this in Skyrim? Let's go fight some stuff so that we can actually see what's happening. So obviously this would be an Electromancer build, which there's a whole sub-tree for in the destruction tree for Ordinator, right? So we do that. The circling orbs, though, we could do like a lightning cloak for this, right? Yeah, this is less of a nuanced build. This is kind of just like get your cloak up and running and start wading through, folks. Which would be an interesting challenge. It may not be as interesting of a build in Skyrim because it's like just not that nuanced. Okay, we're slaying bandits in the area here.
I'm not ready yet.
And let's see, I think Odin and Apocalypse both have short-ranged elemental spells that you could use.
Out of mana.
That could use this basic skill that I have is called an arc lash. It's basically an electro whip that you swing out in front of you. That doesn't cost magic, but for Skyrim, oh, I forgot I had teleport with this guy too. Yeah, so for Skyrim, I think there are some Odin spells that are kind of short-range electricity. They have short-range spells for every element type, I think. You have the right mod packs. So that could be good. And then for Ordinator, I think it also allows you to cast like novice level and novice and adept level spells for free if you take the right perks. So we could do that. This character probably would also require at least some light armor, I think, right? To enable some point-blank defense and melee range. Yeah, okay, so I was gonna say that this probably would be a less nuanced Skyrim build, but I'm kind of thinking this might be interesting. A short-range Electromancer build with some high mobility for the teleports. Yeah, this could work, huh? This is not something you could play. Yeah, it's very high-paced. There's a lot going on. I was saying earlier that this game isn't like really suited for roleplay and storytelling, but there is a good amount of story in it. And I was mentioning that I would like to see somebody try to roleplay this because I think it can be done. The game just doesn't give you the kind of tools that something like Skyrim would give you to do it. It would be an interesting challenge. Maybe I'll do like a video for YouTube or something about trying to roleplay in Diablo. I wonder how well that would do. I would watch it. Okay, so I killed 50 bandits now. Go back and turn that in for another big chunk of experience. Yeah, the game looks like it's difficult, Strudel, but it's not really. You kind of... The harder you set the game, the more experience you get and things like that. But for the most part, you could kind of live at a lower difficulty level and have an easier time with it. But yeah, no, this game is not for everybody. Not everybody who likes Skyrim is going to like Diablo. What Diablo does well compared to what Skyrim does well, Skyrim is very open-ended, right? It allows you to tell your own story, do your own thing. There's a little bit of that in this game, but not really. This game does buildcraft a lot better than Skyrim does. It gives you more options for defining within like your skills and things like that, different ways to play the game. Whereas in Skyrim, you kind of have to, you know, do your Skyrim overhauls and stuff to enable gameplay aspects that match your character concept. This game, you still have a very open-ended character concept based on a class, of course, but it's more centered around gameplay than it is around story, I would say. Oh, it's the numbers flying around? I think that there might be a way to disable those. There might be a way to turn this off. It's something that a lot of people like to mod back into their Skyrim, right? Oh, let's see. Display minion health bars, monster health bar options, hover only. I could turn the monster health bars off. Item level display. Combat text display mode. Hides all damage numbers and statuses. Yeah, so you can play without it. Or hide just the damage numbers. Let's try that. If you're gonna take this game like more seriously with the end game content and things like that, you need some efficiency with your build and how you're progressing with your character. So those numbers are very handy, which is why they're on to start off with. But you could just not increase the difficulty level and play the entire character. Oh wow, that didn't do shit. That option didn't do shit. Still got everything. Did I not activate it or something? Yeah, I still have it. Hide damage. Save changes. I didn't save it. Okay. So let's see how this looks. Yeah, there's a great amount of utility just to make sure that your build is hitting its damage efficiency numbers and to make sure that you're not getting smoked by other enemies. Brought back his head. Lack of context there.
And like those wardstones,
Damn things didn't even last a fortnight.
Looking at it from what would work for me or not. Yeah, no, I still want to see what it looks like because I might like it better this way. The mini map I kind of like. It's very useful. It gives you the path to be able to. It's like a Witcher or a Cyberpunk mini map. Tells you exactly where to go. Oh yeah, that's a little better, huh? And then you can even turn off like that vulnerable and stuff too, the status effects. Much cleaner display for sure. For me though, if I'm playing Skyrim without the, or not Skyrim, Diablo without those numbers, I feel like something's missing. I'll go turn it back on in a second. Out of curiosity though, Strudel, how do you handle that display in Baldur's Gate 3?
I'm not ready yet.
Because I think there are dice rolls and damage values and stuff that show up in that game too. Although it's not as crazy with as this game. It's not as hectic with all the different enemies that are throwing at you and everything that's going on all at once. Not as chaotic in that game. It's all turn-based. Eating through health potions here. Gather those back up. Very different pace. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. Makes sense. Yeah, obviously there's a lot of screen pollution in this game, in terms of like stuff that you're actually doing, stuff that you're seeing, sounds blasting off all over the place. It's much more of an arcade experience, I would say, as to where Skyrim is more of a simulation experience. And that's when I say Skyrim and like things like Starfield and Skyrim are more like simulation type games. I'm not saying that because they're like realistic or anything, right? But they do have in the very fundamentals of their game design, they are designed from a point where, okay, this is a living, breathing world with living, breathing rules. The player is just a character living amongst that world according to those rules, and they're usually the same rules for all the NPCs as well. They designed those games from the ground up based on that simulation, based on that living simulation, and then they kind of add the gameplay elements to it later. A game like this, they start with the gameplay elements first, and like the roleplay mechanics. When I say roleplay mechanics, I mean like the skills and the classes and what you can do in the game. So it becomes more of just like an action gaming experience, more of like an arcade experience than a simulation experience that you would get from a BGS game like The Elder Scrolls or Fallout or Starfield. And that's what I mean when I say only BGS does what BGS does. There really aren't any games that are like that, where they build up a full RPG experience from the ground up based on a simulation, based on that simulation of reality from the very beginning.
How? With a bit of skill, you can learn
Just the amount of interactivity
but when you remember or
and
practice
a lived-in feeling that you get from that is head and shoulders beyond anything else that even tries to come close to it. And that's why I'm a BGS fanboy. It's not it's not me trying to protect Todd because I have a crush on him or something like that. It's because no other game company is doing what BGS does. At least not in the AAA space, at least not with a fully fledged RPG on top of it, right? And that's why people will staunchly defend a BGS game, even in the face of a gigantic hate train, profuse criticism about the game, things like that. I need more goatmen entrails. Oh, I gotta kill a lot of goatmen to get a few entrails. What a waste. Okay, so a Skyrim build based on this guy. We would have an Electromancer with a short range electricity destruction spell. Obviously, we would be speccing heavily into the cloak, I think, as well. We could do things like alchemy. There are elixirs in this game that you can take that boost certain aspects of your game, like resistances and things like that. So we could spec into alchemy. That could also boost our destruction damage as well. I'm thinking something like light armor, just because we're going to be more front lines, short range destruction. But then we'd also need dodge rolls, which is already built into my Skyrim game. And then we'd need some kind of teleport mechanic, maybe Shadow Dance from the Triumvirate Shadow archetype. That'll get us weaving through enemies and you know, doing damage along the way. And then, of course, Skyrim is much easier to roleplay. It gives you those roleplay tools right out of the box, especially in terms of pacing and everything. So we'd be able to build up like a backstory as more of a roleplay challenge, character challenge. We can build that on top of the build itself. The last blast almost got me. Okay, worked it out now, or cyan items are quest items. Yeah, the cyan items can be quest items. They can also be items that enable certain quest lines or certain events. So the cyan items are things like these nightmare dungeon sigils. I got to keep an eye on this stuff here. It started at 11. So another 5 minutes with this build, and then we're going to be switching over to the Necromancer. Buried the lead on the Necromancer. I haven't seen Magus around in a while. He might have missed it. It's okay. Yeah, so these ones show up as cyan. What happens with these is I don't really have the time to do a full nightmare dungeon, but if I activate one of these cyan items, it will add a bunch of aspects to an existing dungeon that makes that dungeon harder. So it'll give you a boon, like I'll do 10% more shadow damage, which is completely useless for an Electromancer, right? And I don't think shadow mages are a thing in this. The rogues do have shadow magic that are available to them, but I don't think the sorcerer has shadow magic. I might be wrong. But that would boost our shadow damage, but also it gives, like when you kill a monster, it enrages them for a while after a short delay, making them more powerful. And then monster fire damage is buffed by 15%, and that goes up with the tier level of this as well. So those are cyan. Let's see, what else is cyan that we saw? Yeah, quest items I think were also cyan, so like these goatmen entrails. Maybe slightly lighter. Yeah, so these cyan ones, those are definitely quest items that you're picking up. So I need to return these quest items. As a male, I'm a little bit more colorblind than the average female. And some men can actually see colors better than others, and you know that obviously translates to females as well. But generally, males, especially middle-aged males like me, have a little bit harder of a time telling colors apart. But I definitely see the difference between like a light blue like this one, and then obviously the cyan that you were talking about. So yeah, you might be right on that. The cyan, the very strict cyan color, is probably quest items we were picking up. Yeah, it's not like a legendary tier higher or anything like that. So turn this quest in for another chunk of XP and some rewards.
Splendid. My visions have been clouded lately, weakened.
So there is a little bit of a storyline that you can play through with this druid character that we've been working for here. A little bit of a quest line. So we get a reward for completing that part of it. We get some items, get some crafting materials, sometimes some money, sometimes some elixirs that you can use to boost yourself up. And then there's another leg to this quest line that you can also enable.
Yes.
Did you scry anything from these intels?
Going hungry while the goatmen overrun our farms. These lands used to be protected, but, well, we've no time now for this chatter. From my readings, I was able to see their attack on Keeler Farm nearby. I sensed a survivor. Hurry, find them. Learn what you can, then return to me. I hope it's not too late.
Okay, let's see. I just want to make sure I commit that hemomancy spell pack to memory. Hemomancy. I'll go back and look at the chat in a minute. All right, so let's see. We are at 1:13 p.m., 2 minutes away from our 45-minute cutoff. So let's go ahead and just, we'll go back to the character select screen, and we'll go back to the Necromancer. We'll play the Necromancer for the rest of the remainder of the time. Necromancers in this game just look cool. Look at that, man. And yeah, in case you missed it earlier, there is a lot of character customization that you can do for your characters in this game. You don't get to see them very much because of how the game is kind of zoomed out in the isometric camera angle. But at the character select screen and stuff like that, and the loading screens, you can see them pretty well. But yeah, you can choose all the different armor pieces and the way that they look, and the different like weapon types and shields and stuff. You can choose that the way they look as well, and just kind of like a combination of the full plate armor with the gauntlets and the pointy nails and stuff, and then just like the head brace on there with the haircut and the glowing blue eyes. Necromancers just look damn cool in this game. I think that's what gets me about this kind of game. I want to be able to see my person because that's really great. Yes, absolutely. In fact, for the thumbnail for my video, I had to kind of, run through some hoops or jump through some hoops in order to get the close-up of that character. I had to wait for a loading screen that showed my character in a pose that I wanted. And then I had to take a quick screenshot, find out where Diablo stores those screenshots, because it's not in the Steam folder, because this isn't a Steam game. You actually can't get this game on Steam now, I think at a discounted price, but I bought this out of the Activision store. And that puts it in a different place than where Steam puts it, so I had to go through the game files for Diablo to find the screenshot, and then I had to edit it to get rid of the loading message and the little spinning loading icon. And then zoom in on it and add some I had to like pan, zoom over, pan it over to the left to get the character centered, and then put some overlays on top of it for the lettering and the borders and stuff. Yeah, it was a lot of work just to get that one stupid little thumbnail. It's always a fun game. Where's the screenshot? Yes, indeed. Hemomancy Blood Magic Spell Pack. Use health instead of magic for your spells. Cool. Thank you. All right. Hemomancy Blood Magic Spell Pack. I am actually going to take a picture of my screen because of that, so I don't forget it. Boom. Shakalaka. All right, so now we are in the swamp biome. This game actually has a lot of different biomes that look great. So we're in the swamp area right now. Earlier, we were in the moors area, which is probably my favorite because it's more of a classic Diablo thing. You kind of start off earlier games in the moors area. This is where all the druids and stuff hang out. Kind of like it's not swampland, but it is definitely wet. It's a lot greener. There are trees and kind of not as many trees, but a lot of grasslands over here. And then you got your snowy tundra forest area here in the Kiovishad Fractured Peaks area. We're in the swamp area right now. There's a desert area, kind of more of a jungle oasis type desert area over here, and then more of a classic desert over here in the dry steppes. Just a lot of sand and dust. And also, you always have beachfronts based in each one of these biomes that look a little different. But we are in the swamps now, and Team Wei is infected with sort of this living fungus that infects everybody who lives in this swamp. And she's going to tell us a little more about it. She's kind of the voodoo witch doctor of the swamp area.
It knows why you've come. It knows each and every bone that has sunk to the bottom of the black mud since time began.
Some very cool dialogue in world building for this game for sure. So you can slow down and play this game at a slower pace, but once battle starts, it's getting hectic. Team Wei is a really cool character. So yeah, like I said, she's infected with the fungus that infects everybody that stays in this area for too long. And what happens is this fungus actually starts to replace you as a person, and you become less of you and more of a part of the swamp, and more connected to the other people who have become infected with this fungus. And as that happens, you become immortal. You lose all concept of time. You can live for hundreds and hundreds of years, but kind of be rooted to one spot, like up against a tree. And you start to kind of gain the memories of the swamp itself and kind of the people who have become part of this fungus and everything. It's a really cool concept. Team Wei, for whatever reason, has been very resistant. She's, I think, lived for like hundreds of years. She's kept more aspects of herself than most other people were able to. She's not become rooted to this one spot.
Left to wander the swamp until it takes them.
So she's been around for a very long time. She's kind of losing aspects of her humanity.
Take these supplies to Baridan.
But she still has aspects of it. She still cares about people. She's constantly like making tinctures and things to help other people who have been affected deal with their infliction.
The scratch of a tiny thorn. The flesh is open.
And here we go.
The swamp flows in. Slowly. Painfully. It grows inside until...
Hey, Mr. B. Welcome, welcome. Mr. B, did you ever get around to playing this game? Diablo 4? Or did you need a PC upgrade before you were able to run it? Pretty damn cool. One of my favorite releases from last year. For sure. Okay, so this character, the Necromancer is a little more gamified in this game than it is simulated in Skyrim. So now we're going back to the arcade versus simulation argument here. The build that I've chosen is corpse explosion build.
I need more time.
And basically what that does is I use these corpses from slain enemies as landmines that blow up and kill other enemies, creating more corpses, which gives me more ammunition, basically. And it's very gamified, I say, because there are skills that when you hit an enemy, it'll generate a corpse underneath a living enemy. So there are ways to generate corpses other than just killing people or killing enemies in this game.
I'm so sorry.
In Skyrim, that's not the case, right? I think that there's like a standing stone, maybe the ritual stone,
But enough of that.
that will drop a corpse at your feet. I think with Andromeda, if you unlock all of the stones, you get a hidden ability that will drop a corpse at your feet that you can use for necromantic dealings, I guess. And there is also the Deadeye Captain, I think, that will store a corpse for you. That is a conjuration. So in Skyrim, you can't really generate corpses like you can in this game. So just by kind of doing it's from skills and things that I've perked into in this game, there are lots of different ways for me to generate corpses, right? And I can use those corpses either to power up my minions, I can use them to detonate and cause damage, or I can use them to kind of, well, detonate and cause damage as I run over them in my blood mist form. And the way that this build is set up is that I am able to generate these corpses through my basic skill, and then I hit a button to go into blood mist form, and that blood mist form will, as I run over them in that form, it will cause these corpses to explode. And I've spec'd heavily into that corpse explosion, doing more damage. So that's like my main means of damage. This basic skill that I have going right now doesn't do much damage. You can spec your build around basic skills in this game, but my basic skill is pretty much just to generate corpses from living enemies and then to detonate those corpses right in their face for high levels of damage. And then I also have this mist form that I can go into, which automatically casts corpse explosion on corpses that are in my immediate area. And while I'm in this form, I am invulnerable, and I do some damage over time to enemies in the area, as well as the corpse explosions that are going off.
Swamp for good. You can take that shite to Weldine if he's still alive. Last I saw, he was headed east.
There are also minions. The minion aspect is a very heavy aspect of the necromancer in this game. I have chosen a bone golem for my minion right now, but you can also have a ton of different skeletons. And I think that the skeleton route might be more what I'm going for, because they generate more corpses that I can then detonate in my enemies' faces. The golem, the blood golem, or the bone golem, or whatever it is I'm using right now, is more powerful as a companion. He's going to tank more damage than the skeletons will. He'll last longer than the skeletons will. And I actually have him spec to that there is a fairly decent chance that he'll generate a corpse whenever he hits an enemy. But for the skeletons, I can have 7 of them running around, having a chance of generating a corpse whenever they hit someone. And that just creates corpses at a much higher frequency than the golem seems to be doing, and causes a lot more battlefield chaos, which kind of benefits the necromancer. And the archetype that he runs off of. Ooh, we got a silent chest. Do I have any obols that I can use? Okay, so these chests are pretty rare. They have that big gold glowing lock on them. And in order to unlock those, you need a whispering key. And the only way to get a Whispering Key is from buying them from these purveyors of curiosities, which are shady merchants that only accept these murmuring obols. I have 325 of them, I think, which is plenty to purchase a couple keys right now. Purveyor of Curiosity.
Take a chance, wanderer.
So this is kind of a gambling mechanic. You can spend your obols on, you know, weapons of specific types, armors of specific types, different items, or you can spend them on Whispering Keys. Whispering Keys are pretty cheap. I'll go ahead and buy 5 of them right now. I'll still have some left over. And then these items actually have a chance to be a legendary. That one I got a rare one, so I kind of... that's not great. Blue items in this game are not great. You want a yellow item or an orange item. And then you get a random chance of getting a yellow, orange, or blue item from that purveyor of curiosities. But you can spend your obols to get these Whispering Keys, which unlock these Whispering Silent Chests. And these always have some high-level items to them. And they give you some experience, too. Now, the way that you get these Murmuring Obols is from those events, the world events. Those yellow rings that once I entered the field of them, then it kind of kicked off a small little quest with a bunch of hectic battles and everything, and usually some boss characters at the end of it. And then when you open the chest at the end of that, as a reward, you get a certain amount of those Murmuring Obols, and then you can obviously spend those on Whispering Keys or chances to get legendary items from that purveyor.
I'm not ready yet.
Now, there is a build that I think was enabled in Season 3, one of the stronger builds for Necromancer. They were dubbing it the Infinimist build. So through itemization and things like the Paragon boards, different ways to spend your skill points, you can spend a lot of time in this mist form, which makes you invulnerable, does damage over time, and causes automatic explosions of these corpses. I have not looked into doing that. I have found that I have more fun doing my own sort of nuanced, unique builds and just kind of following where the legendary drops take me. Taking what the game gives me and kind of coming up with a unique build according to, you know, the rare items that it's giving me. That's how I've had the most fun, instead of just following a meta build. That somebody else has come up with and put on YouTube. I still watch those build guides because it gives me insight into how the game works. And then I can use that for ideas in my own build, concepts in my own build. But that Infinimist build is not something I've looked into yet.
I was looking for my brother. He's sick too.
Yes, I got it, have played it, just need to get back into it. Gotcha. It's fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Ritual with Andromeda, yeah, I thought so. But that is a bug, actually, and I don't know why NI didn't fix it. It's bugged. I thought it said in the description that it does drop a corpse at your feet.
I'll look into it.
When I was playing, I was trying to make an ice and lightning build. Yeah, okay. So yeah, before Season 1, that was a very potent combination. I think that they've nerfed it a little bit. It's still strong. It's just, it's not going to get you through tier 100 nightmare dungeons at level 70 like it was before they patched it. But it's still a very strong build. So that's what I was talking about. You use the ice to inflict the vulnerable status on your enemies, and then use like a lightning, like a chain lightning or something else to mop up the enemies with increased damage on those newly vulnerable enemies. Very potent combination. Lots of synergies like that in this game. Okay. Going over here, we're killing some bandits. Make the denizens of the swamp feel more safe. Now, it's almost always worth it to kind of dodge through a group of enemies in order to get to a shrine, because these shrines will give you a nice buff. They don't last for very long,
I'm not ready.
but they will impart some very powerful abilities.
Your evil's done.
So, okay, so in terms of Skyrim build on this, if I were going to do a Skyrim build based on this build here, how would I... Okay, so we talked about corpse generation. We can do it through the ritual stone, and there's the Deadeye Captain, which is a conjuration spell. You conjure the Deadeye Captain, and you can tell him to store a corpse for you. So we have some ways of generating corpses when there are no corpses to be had. I think there's a corpse explosion spell in Apocalypse. Does that sound familiar to anybody? I don't know why that sounds familiar, but I know that there are ways to make your zombies explode after a certain amount of time as sort of like a heat-seeking missile. That would work. That would work fine. We also have this big, let's see, is this a blood golem? I'm using a bone golem right now, so I could use like a bone lord from the AE content to be able to summon more skeletons, I suppose.
I need more time.
What's the chain lightning effect thing? Oh, so this is a season 3 character. So we're at the tail end of season 3. And what's cool about Diablo is that as a live service game, they're constantly adding new things for you to do. There's a whole story for you to play through. And that involves this little dwarven automaton looking guy, right? He looks like a dwarven spider, but you can actually customize this game as one of the seasonal mechanics. Let's see here. It's called the Seneschal. And you can find these little these runes, these little governing stones is what they call them, and you can install them into your dwarven spider. I'm calling him a dwarven spider because that's what he looks like from Skyrim lore, right? From the Elder Scrolls lore. And he has different abilities. So he does have a lightning strike that he can hit enemies with. He can also heal me. And I think those are the main two things that he does. He's got kind of like a little chain lightning attack, and he's got a healing effect that he can heal me with.
There are men in this world who would take a
That's probably not going to carry over once this season ends.
and sell them like herbs to
This
the
character
others.
is converted into an eternal character, they call it. Once the season expires, they kind of dump the character into your main pool of characters, but they kind of remove the seasonal mechanics that don't make sense anymore. And yeah, there's a whole story about Zoltan Kuhl, who makes a heavy appearance in Diablo 3, and I think in Diablo 2 as well. Zoltan Kuhl is kind of like the magey engineer, legendary NPC from the lore of Diablo. And he actually has like all these vaults they're called with like mechanized traps and mechanized enemies and stuff like that. And these vaults got possessed by a demon, by Malphus, I believe. Was it Malphus? Yes, it was Malphus, who became more and more powerful through these machine mobs and enemies, and possessed them. So these are like hybrid demon automata that you had to fight your way through, and then eventually you kill Malphus. You cleanse the vaults, and you get rewarded for it with like upgrades for your Seneschal and things like that. And there's a whole storyline and NPCs that you can talk to, quest lines, dialogue paths. And that's all for free for the price of admission of the game. They will update it for you. Add storylines as you go. Very good deal. They pay for that through people who want to spend egregious amounts on
Let me show you more, traveler.
on cosmetics.
That's a bold choice.
So this is one of the more expensive. Let's see how much it costs to buy platinum. This is a very cool looking set for, this is a necromancer. Let's see how much some platinum costs here. So yeah, 2,800 platinum for 25 bucks. So if you don't have any platinum, this outfit's gonna cost you 25 bucks. Some people are really into this. Some people, this is the only game they play, so they don't really mind so much to be able to make the character look the way you want. This is how they fund seasonal content in this game. It doesn't give you any more power. It just affects the way that the character looks. And some of them look really cool. Oh, that is very S&M for the rogue. Sexy. And it's been working well for him so far. In my opinion, the cosmetics that you get... So I didn't buy any of these cosmetics for the Necromancer. This is just how this guy looks with vanilla cosmetics in the game. You can make your character look really, really cool. The base vanilla armor and weapon cosmetics in this game are very awesome. There's no need to spend money on it, in my opinion. You can also get a season pass that... So when you play a seasonal character, you have these progression bars that you go through, and then when you unlock certain things, like this bow, this is a bow cosmetic that I can unlock from my rogue. Once I get to this certain progression, I can claim this as a reward, and I don't have to buy anything for it. You can buy a premium pass for these seasons that enable faster progression through this stuff, and also they give you more cosmetics. I've spent, I think I bought the premium pass for one season. I spent money on that one, and then the premium edition of the game that I bought came with a season pass for season 1. So this is also how they're funding it. Increased progression through cosmetic unlocks. And I think a season pass costs like 25 bucks for the 3 months that the season runs.
What is this?
So yeah, a little... you do end up spending a significantly more if you want. It's opt-in. It's completely opt-in. There's more ways to spend money in this game that funds the quest lines and the new mechanics and stuff. If you want to opt into that. Otherwise, you know, you can get the free content, which is a lot, just for the price of admission of the game itself.
This is just an ordinary doll. Why didn't you say so?
Man, I'm starving too. See you later, Strudel. Have a good day, all right? Have a good weekend. Man, I'm getting really hungry too. I got 20 minutes left in the stream, and then I'm gonna feed my fat face.
A child. Long ago.
Ah, thanks for the shout out, Haster.
My child, perhaps? Yes. It was my child.
You're currently working on a cooking and survival mod for those that use survival mode. The Creation Club survival mode?
This one has been
That'd be cool. I know a lot of people actually use that.
After all this time. Maybe someday it will bring her back too.
Yeah, folks, Mr. B streams a variety of different games on Twitch, so go check him out, leave him a follow. I'm sure he'll appreciate it. I think he focuses, like most of us actually, focuses mainly on Skyrim, but he also has some really awesome mods that have done really well on the Nexus. Magic of Food and Drink, I think, is the most popular one. I think he's got a dynamic container mod as well. Really good stuff. So do check out his stuff. Smart guy. Knows his stuff. Great modder. Let's see here. Still got 20 minutes left. What am I doing? Do I have any active Fool's Heart? No, that's just kind of a passive quest. What else can we do? 20 minutes. Let's do a dungeon. Army of the Dead is active. Your minions gain 70% attack speed and take 90% reduced damage. Hell yeah. I do use Army of the Dead as my ultimate. And having a stronger golem or skeleton warriors, definitely a cool thing. I like using survival mode as well, and thanks for the kind words. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, survival mode is one of the newer things. People, some people will crap on it just because it's Creation Club content, but it does give a very simple and easily understandable survival mechanic to, like exposure mechanics and things like that to Skyrim, and I believe that was part of the free upgrade to the AE version as well. Even if you're not running AE, I believe that the survival mode will work on 1.5.97. So yeah, free survival mode for Skyrim is why I think a lot of people use it, and it works on console and things like that as well. So I think you know, leaning into that with your food mods and stuff like that is a pretty smart idea. I myself am not as drawn to survival stuff. Ooh, we got a treasure goblin. I'll expound upon that in a second here. I really want to kill this treasure goblin. God, he's a quick little bugger. Got him. Okay. Treasure goblins will give you a guaranteed legendary now. That's part of one of the patches that they did early on in the game. I think it's season 1. Previously, they had a 50% chance whether or not they were going to drop a legendary. But it really felt like it was a lot less than that. So they just... they cranked it up to 100%, so now it's like, after chasing that stupid goblin around for 3 years, finally getting them, you don't feel let down when you don't get a legendary for it. So now you get a legendary for it every time. Oh, my nose is starting to itch. I think I need to take an allergy pill. Lootable things. I think I've used that mod in the past, actually. It was a good one. Was it lootable mod, or was it lootable things, or was it dynamic containers or something like that? Another popular mod, nonetheless. Oh, one new thing that they added, that they just announced for Diablo IV, was that they're spinning up PTRs, which will make Diablo vets very happy. Public test realms, or PTS, public test servers. where you can play the beta version of the next season and the season mechanics. And it's available for anybody who owns the game. Which is great because one of the main complaints that like the hardcore Diablo fans have had was that they were having like too many issues whenever they would start a new season, and they would always get around to fixing them and making it a good experience within the first couple of weeks, but they could always just avoid those issues if they just had a PTR or a PTS. Getting like the most dedicated hardcore players access to the game early as a form of beta testing is the best way to ensure that your season is going to have a good launch, that the mechanics aren't going to fall flat for people, and that there are going to be less like bugs and game-breaking issues because of like balance issues and things like that. So that's a great change that they've announced for Season 4, I believe. They are also going to have gauntlet leaderboards, so like basically dungeons that you go through and try to rack up a high score. And you also get like item rewards based on what tier you ended up with at the end of your score run. So people with a little bit more of a competitive inclination will have a little bit of a competitive thing to do end game with their friends for bragging rights. And I think at the end of the season, if you're a top 10, if you have a top 10 score in the gauntlet, you get to have your name and likeness like immortalized in a gallery somewhere that Blizzard maintains.
Bless you.
If I remember correctly. Think you're gonna stream on Sundays more? That's nice. That's awesome. I sometimes have time to watch a stream on Sundays, not always. Have some social obligations that my wife signs me up for now and then. But I might be able to make a few of those, Mr. B.
Wouldn't have made it without you.
Yeah, this build is still in its infant phases. I'm still only on World Tier 1 at the moment. I think the capstone dungeon unlocks, or I think it becomes available pretty early on, but generally around level 50 is when your character is strong enough to be able to comfortably complete the capstone dungeon, and at that point you can go up to World Tier 3. World Tier 2 is, unless you have a really strong starting build, is generally the juice that you get from that is not worth the squeeze. You do get more experience, but the monsters are harder at World Tier 2. And World Tier 2 is available from the very start of the game, but it's typically too hard for a starting character to be able to justify. You can't kill enemies fast enough to make that extra experience worth it. Generally, the advice is to stay in World Tier 1 and just crank out the killing enemies as fast as you can until you get to level 50, and then you do the capstone dungeon and you jump right to World Tier 3, which is where the increased difficulty becomes more worth it.
Wouldn't have made it without you.
For the experience, and then the legendary items become more frequent at that point. Okay, so there was a treasure goblin. He seems to have run off. Didn't get to him in time, whatever. I've rescued all of the prisoners at this point, and now we're going to the next phase of the dungeon. We've got an elite here, looks like poison damage.
I'm not ready yet.
Okay, we gotta go through and kill all these blood obelisks now. Need some corpses before I can do anything really too damaging. The Necromancer here is another momentum-based build, like the Barbarian was. The Barbarian really needs to build up Fury before he can really start working to his strengths. It's kind of the same way with the Necromancer here. The Necromancer really needs corpses, or at least the way that I have my build working here. He really needs corpses to be able to get cooking with his damage output. So he needs to be able to generate those corpses somehow, either by killing enemies first or by using skills that generate corpses from living enemies. So it takes a little bit for each battle for him to get cooking, but once he does, I mean, you just have like chain reactions of corpse explosions and things like that. The Necromancer also does have kind of a mana bar, so you can cast like traditional spells as well. It's not really a fundamental part of the build that I'm using, but in times when you don't have like corpses, like a bunch of corpses laying around that you can detonate, it is a good way to just get your damage going and at least kill a few enemies to be able to generate these corpses at the beginning of a fight. So I do like having it around. And like the rogue, with his shadow imbuement and all the explosions going off everywhere, you get that big dopamine hit. And this is another one of those, what I call the digital bubble wrap builds. Everybody loves popping bubble wrap, right? This is kind of the same thing, just on the screen. It's the bubble wrap simulator build. The rogue with the rapid fire and the shadow imbuement does the same thing, kinda. It's a chain reaction of explosions all over the place. Very satisfying. Having cream cheese and eggs for your lunch. That is an interesting choice. I mean, it doesn't sound like it would be bad, but I would do cream cheese on toast and then eggs on the side, maybe. But I do put cheese on my eggs, just not cream cheese. I mean, I've never tried it, so I don't know if it's good or bad. But Aurora seems to like it, so. Oh, there we go, and I just unlocked a new tier on the seasonal progression. On the season pass here. Yeah, so I think it would be fun to do build guides for Diablo as well. Much of the YouTube market for Diablo build guides is centered around meta, about how to get the most powerful build as fast as possible. But I feel like there might be a pool of viewership out there who is less interested in the meta and more interested in like these weird, unique, niche builds that maybe aren't quite as powerful as the most powerful builds that a lot of these hardcore Diablo players are pumping out. But maybe something that's like just fun and unique but still viable at high levels. I think that might be a good boon for the channel. And kind of a way to like branch people into my Skyrim builds too, because the Skyrim builds have kind of the same sensibilities. Those Skyrim builds aren't always the most powerful. Sometimes they do end up being very powerful. But when they're working the best, they're very niche, unique, nuanced builds. And I feel like I could pull the same thing off with this game too, and that would increase my available viewership as well. I feel like I'm getting to the point where it's becoming harder to expand the viewership on the channel with just Skyrim alone.
I cannot carry more.
Okay, I gotta go salvage some gear to make some room for the new stuff. So I feel like I'm at the point with the channel where I need to branch out to different things a little bit. Not forsaking Skyrim at all whatsoever. In fact, I kind of been feeling the itch to get back to it this week. Maybe get back to the Steger and finally fully flesh him out and get started on the build guide for that. Now that the Cyberneticist build is done. But to kind of just broaden the appeal of the channel a little bit, I think this would be a good place to start. Okay, I'm going to cut out all the gray and blue. And that should give me plenty of room for all that other stuff that I had to leave on the ground back there. Okay, Mr. B's heading out too. No problem. No problem. In fact, once I get done with this dungeon, I'll call it a day too. We're getting very close to the end here. Where the hell am I supposed to be going? I need to go down. Down this way. This has been productive though, right? For Skyrim build ideas, I think I've come up with some really cool ones. Travel to the altar of the faceless. The short-ranged electromancer. A corpse explosion. Necromancer, like hemomancer build in Skyrim. A shadow shot, triumvirate shadow combat archer. And a blood rage barbarian. I think it would be cool to start writing some notes. Maybe sit outside. The weather has been gorgeous out here lately. We're heading into spring from winter, and then we're gonna head into the suck of summer. That's for sure. But right now, just being able to sit outside in the weather has been really nice. So maybe I'll sit outside, make some notes. Yeah. Some of the ideas that we've had for Skyrim builds here. How to implement them.
need more time.
Taking chunks. Lost my golem. Golem. Golem and golems are two different things. Okay, there we go. Got through the dungeon there, and I got my legendary aspect. Ooh, and our golem is back, our bone golem. Nice. All right, folks. Drinking chocolate milk, nice. I got some high protein chocolate milk containers in my fridge that I'll probably go out because that sounds really good. Man, I am hungry. I need some lunch. Hey guys, thanks everybody for joining. That was fun. We had a good crowd here today too. Don't know if I'm gonna add this game into a full rotation of streaming, but we seem to have a good amount of concurrent viewers coming in here to see some of this stuff. Which was fun. If you want more Diablo just to see where my characters are, how they're progressing and things like that, I would consider maybe doing a once a month stream on this or something. I do love the game. But for now, I think maybe if I branch out to another game, I'll probably be doing Cyberpunk. Because that's the build that needs the most help right now. It needs the most progression of all the games that I'm playing. So maybe switch back to Cyberpunk at some point soon, maybe next week, or maybe I'll go back to Skyrim at some point. Skyrim's in a weird place right now where I'm right at the end of fleshing out the Steger build. So there's just a little bit of work to do then, and then I go into full production mode, which I don't do a whole lot of playing on the character at that point. And that will take me a couple weeks to get through, 2 or 3 weeks to get through the build guide for that, to edit it and do all the production effort on it and everything. So in that time, I'm either going to, well, I will be adding some mods into my modding profile to get some, should start a new game with CP77. Oh, I got too many new games already. I might though. Let's see. So yeah, I need to add some mods to my MO2 profiles. There's some new armors and weapons that I want to get added in and update for some other mods that I already have in there. I want to add HDT physics in there too, so I can enable some really cool armor sets. And then I'm going to get started on the warrior playthrough for that, which I can play on stream, as well as maybe the thief and the mage profile as well. Just a thought, don't have to. Oh yeah, no problem. I like suggestions. If you have suggestions for content, let me know. So yeah, the modding shouldn't take me nearly as long as the build guide for the Steger. So there will be Skyrim in the meantime, but I do want to branch out to Cyberpunk a little bit and flesh out that build, because that build's been in the works for a long time. And that's a pretty good stream game too. It looks great. It's a lot of fun to play. A lot of good buildcraft since the update 2.0 and things like that. So yeah, Cyberpunk's great. Next week, I don't know. Probably Cyberpunk next week is what I'm thinking if I had to guess right now. Maybe Skyrim, but probably Cyberpunk. All right, that's it for me. If you like this content, do go and leave a follow for some other folks that I'm a big fan of. You can get the links in the description down below. Namely, The Wind has a great Twitch channel. She plays a lot of different games. I think lately she's been playing some live servicey type games. like zombie killing games, some Starfield. Mostly she does Skyrim. She's been working on her Skyrim mod list a little bit right now, so might be a little while before we see some Skyrim action from her. But do go leave her a follow. Come hang out with us. Mr. B as well. I think Haster left, I might have it in the description below. I'm not sure. But if it's not, then Haster's left a link for him as well. Maldaroth was here earlier. Magus was here earlier. Just click all the links in the description below. Leave these guys a follow. They deserve it. It's a good time whenever you can catch their streams, I promise. And that's it for me. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll see you next week with some cool video game build goodness. Take care, guys.